Okay, let's unpack this deep dive. We're looking at a massive challenge in the building industry, one you might well face if you deal with older properties.
Mm.
Think about, the huge number of buildings designed way before smart 3D models, before BIM. A lot of that documentation is just stuck on old paper, maybe simple 2D CAD files or even just scans.
Right. And the big problem, the fundamental issue, is taking all that disconnected, often dumb information, 2D lines, point clouds from scans, and turning it into a smart, editable 3D BIM model. That's incredibly time consuming, expensive too. It's mostly manual work, basically rebuilding the whole thing digitally.
Yeah, a real bottleneck. It makes renovating or managing these older buildings with modern tools really hard, really costly.
Exactly.
So this deep dive is all about a service that claims to tackle this head on. Using AI, machine learning, it's called BIMify from a company in Sweden. They say they can automate that conversion.
And our insights today, they come directly from a source giving us a pretty detailed look at what BIMify is, how it actually works, what it can do.
Right. So our mission here is to, cut through the hype and really understand what BIMify does, how it supposedly does it, its potential, who's behind it. The goal is just to give you a quick, solid grasp of this interesting development in the AEC world.
What really jumps out when you look at this service is just the sheer scale of the problem they're tackling. We're talking about digitizing the existing built world here, not just new builds. Alexander Belisvac, the guy behind BIMify, he put some numbers on it for Europe, something like 20 to 25 billion square meters built before BIM.
Billion. Wow.
Yeah, and he reckons maybe, 95% of that older stock will eventually need digitizing. That's the huge market opportunity they're aiming for.
20, 25 billion square meters.
Yeah.
That is a staggering amount of legacy data. So how does this service actually work? The source says it's not software you install, right? It's a service.
That's right. They talk about a factory-like approach. The core idea is using machine learning AI to process loads of files automatically. You send them your input, could be a bunch of floor plans, and the system, well, it processes them and spits out a fully assembled, intelligent 3D model, often a native Revit file.
A fully assembled model,
Yeah.
potentially in minutes. The source mentioned taking, 6 simple floor plans and getting back a ready-to-edit Revit model, an RVT file, really fast. Compared to doing it by hand, that's incredibly quick.
That is the claim, yeah. And the workflow they describe is quite specific. You start by giving them the input data. That can be pretty varied. DWG, DXF-CAD files, point clouds, 3D scans, or even
Right.
PDFs or just image files of drawings. You also give some basic info about the building type, area, number of levels, typical floor heights, that sort of thing.
Okay, so you feed it the old drawings or
Yeah.
scan data, plus some basic building parameters.
Exactly. And you also need to specify why you need the model. Is it just for space management or a detailed renovation? And based on that, you pick the level of detail, the low AD, that's standard stuff, defines how much info and geometry goes in. And crucially, you can upload your own company's Revit template and families.
The families like doors, windows, furniture components.
Yeah, precisely. Those pre-built bits. This is really key because it means the model they generate can actually match your internal standards. It's not just generic blocks. The platform then gives you an instant price quote based on the building size and the complexity you asked for.
Right, makes sense. Upload data, set requirements, get a price.
Yeah.
Then what happens when it goes into this factory?
Okay, this is where their tech comes in.
Mm.
The automated part uses their deep learning and AI to, read those input files. The algorithms analyze the drawings or scans, identify and classify things, walls, doors, windows.
So it sees the lines and figures out what they are.
It aims to, yes. Not just lines, but walls, doors, windows, maybe even curtain walls, structural bits like slabs and columns, plumbing fixtures, rooms. They're even working on getting more specific, like telling the difference between single, double, or triple windows from the input.
And this is where that engineering intelligence idea comes in, right? The source highlights that as a key difference.
Yes, exactly. That's core to their approach. It's apparently more than just simple AI pattern matching. While the AI identifies potential objects, that output gets immediately cross-checked against embedded building rules and real-world engineering constraints.
So it has built-in knowledge.
Kind of like having a layer of architectural and engineering knowledge baked in, yeah?
Yeah.
The system understands things like, typical wall thicknesses, minimum door clearances, standard areas for bathrooms, that kind of stuff. This engineering intelligence isn't just checking, it's refining the AI's interpretation. It improves the confidence level, makes sure the model actually makes sense structurally and functionally.
Ah, like a human modeler would use their experience.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's adding semantic intelligence, understanding not just the shapes, but what the shapes mean in a building.
So it's not just tracing lines, it's trying to genuinely understand the building's layout based on how buildings are actually put together. That feels like a pretty big step beyond simple conversion.
It is, moving from just geometry to intelligent building elements. However, the source is also quite clear that not everything can be automated by the AI, at least not yet.
Okay, what kind of things still need manual input?
Typically, the more complex or custom stuff, things like stairs, railings, roofs, vertical openings like shafts or atriums, and any really custom specification details, those specific elements are modeled manually by BIMify's own team as part of the service.
Okay, so it's a hybrid process then. AI handles the bulk of the standard stuff fast, and their team finishes the tricky bits. What about accuracy? That's crucial for a usable BIM model, right?
Yeah, and this is where BIMify makes a really strong claim. The Lesvac states they deliver 100% accuracy after that manual completion step and their quality assurance process.
After QA.
He says this QA step, which is standardized and semi-automated, is critical to make sure the final model is complete and meets the quality standards the user set. This mix of automation, manual refinement, and QA also gives them feedback to keep improving their algorithms.
100% accuracy after QA. That's certainly a bold claim, especially with AI interpretation involved.
Hmm.
Stepping back a bit, what about the underlying tech they're using? The source mentioned it's built on Balsvac's own AI code, but also uses parts from a major player.
Yes, they lean pretty heavily on components from Autodesk Platform Services, APS, that used to be called Autodesk Forge. Things like the Forge Viewer for looking at models' online data exchange tools, and most likely Revit.io.
Revit.io, what's that?
It's basically a version of Revit that runs in the cloud without a user interface, sometimes called a headless Revit. This reliance on Autodesk stuff makes a lot of sense if their main goal is producing native Revit files, those RVT files. It helps them build models with actual Revit families and properties.
But doesn't relying so much on Autodesk potentially cause issues? Especially if you use different BIM software.
It does, yeah. While BIMify's website might mention support for other platforms like ArchiCAD, our source notes that currently the output for ArchiCAD is usually via IFC.
Ah, IFC. Industry Foundation Classes, the neutral format.
Exactly. It's widely used for swapping BIM data, but converting via IFC often gives you geometry that's less, well, editable or intelligent compared to a native model created right in Revit or ArchiCAD. The difficulty in providing native ArchiCAD output seems linked to the fact that there isn't really a direct equivalent to Autodesk's Revit.io for ArchiCAD, something that lets you programmatically build native ArchiCAD files in the cloud.
It makes total sense. So if your goal is getting legacy data into the Autodesk world, especially Revit, this service looks like a really good fit. But if you need a truly native, easily editable model in, say, ArchiCAD, it's currently less smooth. You're relying on that more limited IFC export.
Yeah.
What about interesting use cases? Anything particularly maybe counterintuitive that stood out?
Yeah, there was one fascinating workflow highlighted. It's from clients who are actually moving from other BIM systems, maybe older ArchiCAD versions or other platforms, to Revit. They find that converting their old projects directly from their original BIM format using IFC into Revit, well, it just doesn't give them the native editable Revit geometry they need to keep working effectively.
So the IFC conversion isn't good enough for ongoing work.
Apparently not for what they need. So their solution is, get this, they go back to their original 2D drawings or even PDF archives of those projects, and they use BIMify to generate native, editable 3D RVT files directly from those old 2D sources.
Wait, hang on. They take their old projects, ignore the old BIM files because the IFC conversion is weak, and instead go back to the 2D drawings to get a native Revit model using BIMify.
Yeah.
That is counterintuitive.
Isn't it just, it completely bypasses the usual limitations of format conversions like IFC when what you absolutely need are truly editable native files in a specific program like Revit. It's a really clever workaround, actually. Unlocks the value of that old data in a way you wouldn't expect.
That really does highlight the unique value proposition here, finding these different paths to get usable data into the format you need. The source also mentions that, like a lot of AI developers, BIMify is pretty cagey about the specifics of their algorithms. The secret sauce, you know?
Yes, described as being maybe more tight-lipped than many in the AI field. But the impression you get is that their core strength isn't just the AI's pattern recognition, but critically, how they've combined that AI with that engineering intelligence layer. using those embedded building physics and rules to check and refine the AI's output, making sure the result isn't just geometrically okay, but actually makes sense from a building perspective.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together then. Think about what this means.
Okay, so we've done a deep dive into BIMify. We can think of it as basically an AI-powered digital factory. It's specifically designed to take that huge amount of often unusable legacy 2D drawings and point clouds and turn them into intelligent, usable 3D BIM models. With a particular strength, it seems, in generating native Revit files.
And the key takeaways seem to be that really interesting engineering intelligence layer, refining the AI output with building rules, the efficiency of their factory-style batch processing, the practical benefit of letting users plug in their own Revit families and templates, and that very clever workflow we just talked about using original 2D drawings to get native Revit models when migrating systems. Plus, underpinning it all, that massive market size, 25 billion square meters of pre-BIM buildings in Europe alone. Huge.
Yeah. So for you, the listener, if you ever find yourself dealing with older building data, maybe managing properties with ancient paper plans, or tackling a tricky renovation of an old building, or even just trying to get archives of old projects into your current BIM setup, this service, BIMify, it represents a potential shortcut, a way to unlock the info in that legacy data and make it work in a modern workflow without all the huge manual effort traditionally needed. Just think about the time and cost savings if that claim holds, turning 6 floor plans into an editable Revit model in minutes.
Definitely speeds things up. Though, as our source pointed out, it's worth remembering it's not 100% automated end-to-end yet. Some bits, like stairs and roofs, still need their team to do manual work. And that strong 100% accuracy claim, that's specifically after their internal QA check. Important distinction. Also, that strong tie-in with Autodesk means native Revit output is great. But getting native files for other platforms like ArchiCAD isn't really there yet via this service. You're looking at ISC, which, as we discussed, often limits how much you can edit later.
Right. And this all leads to a really thought-provoking final question, doesn't it? If services like BIMify get better and better at digitizing the entire existing built world, what are the bigger implications? What does that mean for how we manage, renovate, interact with buildings going forward?
Yeah, is this tech just bridging a gap, helping us drag all the old stuff into the current BIM era faster? Or does it fundamentally change how architectural and engineering documentation works? Does it maybe transform the whole process of turning reality or old data into smart, usable models into something completely different than what we do today? It's a fascinating future to think about as these AI capabilities keep developing.